Hey guys, it's Cuberstash and welcome to part 2 of the new Wairuru tutorial. So if you haven't watched part 1, you should go to the description now and watch part 1 because that covers the first step, which is CP line, and the rest of this video will not make any sense if you don't know how to do that. So this video will be covering all the other steps of the method and is probably shorter than covering just the first step. So the next thing we want to do after making a CP line is extend this line into a RU style first block by adding these 3 pieces. Now this step is mostly intuitive and you just need to kind of play around with different ways to move the pieces. But generally what you want to do is assemble the 3 pieces on the right of the cube and then do a U-wide 2 move to move them from the right to the left. So I'll just show a few examples. Here's one that I just randomly scrambled. So we need the yellow or the orange and the orange center and the orange blue edge and the orange green edge. So I'll start by moving the orange center to the right side, and we already have this orange blue edge connected to it. And the other one is right here. So I can do an R prime to line this up, because if I do a UI 2, it will match up here. So opposites here will line up correctly with a UI 2. And now for this last edge, I can put it in like in the middle of the UI 2 by doing like that. U wide, R prime, U wide. So whenever you have the side color on the top, you usually want to insert it in this kind of way. All right, here's another example. So we have orange again, and the 2 edges are both up here in the U layer. So I can connect one to the center. Doesn't matter which one in this case, they'll both work. Move it to the right. And then I want to put this one here, so I'll move this edge down to the bottom so that this one will be opposite it to make this line. And again, you want to look for opposite colors here. So if they're matching, your extension will be upside down. So you want opposite colors here and just insert it like that. Sometimes you might have edges stuck in the D layer. In that case, you'll have to use some R-wide moves to bring them out. So this is a case that is not especially nice, but I'll show it to you so you can get an idea of what to do. So we have the center over here, and this edge right here, and this edge right here. So the way I would probably solve this is by moving the center over, connecting this edge, moving it onto the right face, and then to bring this out, I would do an R wide to move it to the U layer, and with the side color on the front here so it can line up more easily. And then that put this edge already in the bottom, which is nice. So I'll connect that, put these opposite, and finish it off like that. Now you don't always have to assemble the pieces on the right face of the cube. You can do it in any way that works. So for this example, I have this edge already in place, the center up here, and the other edge over here. So one way you can solve this is by connecting this edge, and then moving this edge over, lining this up and connecting them, and then replacing that like that. So I didn't move everything over to the right layer, but I still got everything connected. And this step just has a lot of intuition, finding stuff like that. So I'll have example solves at the end of the video that will hopefully give you more ideas. And you can check the description for links to more example solves. But that's about it for this step. So the next sort of half step is influencing the edge orientation in our favor. So this step combined with the next half step is usually called partial edge orientation extension because we orient some of the edges. So usually you do this after the extension, but it can also be done during the extension, which I'll show in a minute. But after the extension is done, you'll have two types of centers on top. You'll either have a top or bottom center on top, or you'll have a front or back center on top. So I have a front and back center on top here. So I'll just show this one first. And the goal here is to make the DB edge be good and to have the centers be either correct or opposite. So before I go any farther, I need to explain the concept of edge orientation because you need to understand that in order to influence the edge orientation. If you already understand how it works from ZZ or Petrus, you can skip ahead a little bit because it is exactly the same recognition, although the way we're going to solve it is different. I'll be referring to oriented edges as good edges and misoriented edges as bad edges. That's just what people do, and it's a little bit more convenient than saying misoriented every time. So there are good edges and bad edges, and the way to determine them involves splitting them into two types. There's U or D edges, which with my orientation scheme are white and yellow, and then there are the two edges that belong in the E slice, in this case this one and this one, which don't have white or yellow. So the reason I recommend X2, Y2 neutral is to make this recognition consistent. So the yellow or white edges are good if their yellow or white sticker is facing up on the top or down on the bottom. So this edge is good because yellow is facing up. This edge is good because white is facing up. This edge is bad because yellow is not facing down, and this edge is also bad because white is not facing down. Now, if those edges are in one of these two positions, you have to look at the front or back sticker, because that's the one where if you were to do an R move, which doesn't affect edge orientation, it would be on the top or bottom. So this edge would be bad because its white sticker is not in the front. This edge would be good because its white sticker is in the back. And for the other two edges, you look for the front or back color. So in this case, the front color is blue. The blue is facing up, so this edge is good. We can solve it with R and U moves. This edge, the back color is not facing up, so this one is bad. If we were to place it with R and U moves, it would be flipped. Alright, so now that you understand the concept of edge orientation, let's go back and see how we can influence it during or after the extension step. So we want this DB edge to be good so that our EO recognition is easier and we don't have to look back here where it's very hard to look. So if you have a front or back center on top, you want to look for a bad edge to put into DB. So usually you want to pick one that's in the U layer. If you have no options in the U layer, then you can grab one from somewhere else. But most of the time you'll be able to use an edge in the U layer. So this edge has white facing up, so it would be good. This edge has white facing up, so it would be good. This edge does not have white facing up, so this one would be bad, and we could use this one. This edge does not have yellow facing up, so this would be bad, and we could use this one as well. So we want to do a U move to position that edge into UB, so that when we do an R-wide move to align the centers, it moves into DB and is now good. We could have also used this edge. That works just as well, but I picked this one because we just had to do a U instead of a U2. Now, if you have a U or D center on top, you want to do pretty much the same thing. You want to position an edge so that when you do an R-wide move, DB will become good. Except this time we have to do an R-wide 2 move to make sure U and D centers still stay on top. So let's just look at the orientation of the edges on the U layer. This one, yellow is not facing up, so that would be bad. White is not facing up, so that's bad. White facing up is good. And blue facing up on this edge is good. So we want to find a good edge this time and put it into UF because we need to do an R wide 2 move. So that R wide 2 puts this edge into DB, and R wide 2 moves preserve edge orientation. So it was good here and it will be good in DB. Now, if you have a case where you don't have any edges of the correct orientation, you want to just grab one from somewhere else. So in this case, we have a front or back center on top. These edges are all good because I see white and yellow only on top. But we need a bad edge to put into DB. So now I can look at the right face. This edge is good, blue in front. This edge is bad, green, not on bottom. And this edge is also bad because white is not in the back. So I could use either of these. I'll just pick this one because it's 1/4 turn away. And then I move it into UB and place it into DB with an R wide move like that. So these cases are not ideal, but they don't come up very frequently. If you have the opportunity to orient more edges, you should absolutely take it. So in this case, I have the front or back center on top, so I need to find a bad edge to put in DB. This one's good, this one's bad, this one's bad, and this one's bad. So I have a bad one already here, and I can just do R wide, and that one's good, and we're good to go. But if I have a bad edge here and here, what I can do is a U, and that will actually orient both of these because they're both being moved by this R wide move. So now I have fewer bad edges than I did just inserting that one like that. And a similar idea, if possible, you want to make the DF edge bad on purpose. So in this case, we have a URD center on top. We have white on top is good, white on top is good, white on top is good, yellow not on top is bad. So we can take any of these good edges, put them into UF and do an R wide 2, and DB will be good and we'll be good to go. But since we have this bad edge here, what we can do is use this one and put this bad edge here. And if you're going to have a bad edge anyway, it's better to have one here. You'll see when I go over the EO cases, if you don't have one here, you just force one to be there. So if you can force one to be there now, it's better than doing it later. There are some cases where you can solve the partial edge orientation during the extension. So I have a white-red line solved here. So I have the red center, this edge, and this edge. So I can connect them all with U prime, U wide prime, connect them on the right. And then I have to do an R to make these opposite and a U2. But instead of doing an R, what I can actually do, since I already have a bad edge here that's going to go into DB, is an R wide and then my U wide 2. So that R wide both aligned the extension that I needed and placed this edge into DB. Good. So then I have the whole thing done. All right, so now for the actual orientation of the edges. So there are only 5 possible numbers of edges to be unsolved, 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, because edges can only be flipped in pairs. And there are 9 edges remaining. DB will always be good, so we have these 8 edges here that we still need to orient. So each number of edges will be treated a little bit differently. So I'll start with 2 edges. So let's look at the orientation of all the edges first. White on top is good, yellow on top is good, white on top is good, yellow not on top is bad, so this one's bad. We want to keep track of the bad ones because those are the ones we want to change to be good. Blue in front is good. White on bottom is good. Red on bottom is bad, or green not on bottom is bad. And then yellow in back is good. So we have two bad edges, one here and one here. And what we want to do for bad edges is use some R and U moves to position them so that one is in the M slice, like this one. So either here or here. And the other is in the R face. So this one's just fine where it is. And what we're going to do is an R wide move that keeps this one in the U layer. So we can do either R wide or R wide prime, but in this case we want to do R wide prime to keep this one in the U layer. If it was in the front, we would do R wide. So we'll do R wide prime, and then we'll exchange it for this edge. So U prime, U R wide. So again, R wide prime to keep this in the U layer, U prime, R prime, U to exchange them, and R wide to undo. Now every time we do edge orientation, the direction of the last two moves actually doesn't matter. So we can do U prime, R wide prime instead of U R wide, and it will still solve all the edges. So this is important for influencing the next step, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Just keep it in mind, you can do the last two moves in any direction for every edge orientation case. Now, if you have four bad edges, what you want to do is set them up into the positions I have them in here, and then do 3 moves to orient them. So green on top is good, white on top is good, yellow not on top is bad, blue not on top is bad, so these two are bad. White not on bottom is bad, this one's bad. Yellow not in front is bad, this one's bad, so we have these 4 bad. White on bottom is good, white in back is good. So these 4 edges are bad, and this is where you want to position the 4 bad edges. So this is called the staircase pattern. Kind of looks like a staircase going that way. So what you want to do when you have the edges here is R wide, and then the last 2 moves again can be any direction, so U prime or U, and then R wide or R wide prime. So R wide, U prime or U, R wide prime or R wide. So you're going to use this approach anytime you have 4 bad edges. So this case we have good, blue on top, yellow on top good, yellow on top good, yellow not on top bad, white not on bottom bad, white not in front bad, white on bottom good, green not in back bad. So we have bad edges here, 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 and here. So we want to use R and U moves to set this up to the staircase. So the way we could do that is R, U, R. So now they're in this position, and we can do R wide, U or U prime, R wide or R wide prime. So now that you know the staircase algorithm, I'll show you one more case with 2 bad edges, and that's where they're opposite each other in the U layer. So you can take a look, all the other edges are good, and we have bad edges here. So this case is the only one where it's not very convenient to have one in the M slice and one in the R layer. You would have to do 3 moves to get to that. So instead what you can do for this case is staircase with a clockwise U and counterclockwise R wide. So R wide U, R wide prime. And that changes our 2 bad edges to 4 bad edges. So they're now here. So we can do U prime, R prime, and then staircase again, with the moves being in any direction this time, the last 2 moves. All right, now let's take a look at what to do when you have 6 bad edges. So we have bad, 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 good, bad, bad, good, bad. So these two are good and the rest are bad. So when you have 6 bad edges, I usually look at the 2 good ones because it's easier to keep track of moving 2 edges than moving 6. But you want to position the 2 good edges just the way I have them right here. And then you'll do basically a staircase from the back canceled into a staircase from the front. So r wide prime, u prime, r wide 2, and then u or u prime, r wide or r wide prime. So here's another quick example of 6 bad edges. So 1, 2, these are good, 3, 4, 5, 6 bad edges. So these are the 2 good edges, and I want to place them here and here. So I could do that with R2 to put this one down here, and then U prime to put this one here. And then R wide prime, U prime, R wide 2, U or U prime, R wide or R wide prime. Now I'll show you what to do with 6 bad edges, but a good edge stuck in the bottom layer like this. So all 4 edges on the top are bad. This one's bad, this one's good, and this one's bad. So you can do just like you would do with 4 bad edges, do r wide u2 r wide prime to take this out, and then set it up and do your normal alg. But something else you can do that's easier to keep track of is set up the one good edge that's not trapped to be in UR, and then do r wide u2 r wide, and now you have good edges here and here, so u prime. So you want to sort of memorize this as an algorithm with the good edges here, r wide u2 r wide u prime, and then you have them where you want them. Now the unfortunate case of 8 bad edges. So we placed a good edge here, but every other edge is bad. So obviously there's not really anything you can do to move them around because it's just every edge is bad. So the algorithm is just 2 staircases, but you can memorize the moves in between because they'll always be the same. So you do r wide u prime r wide for the first one. This one the directions do matter because it sets up the next bad edges. And then you do u r u, which will always position these for the other staircase, and this one you can do the moves in any direction you want. Alright, now we'll talk about the step after edge orientation, and that's solving the DF and DB edges as well as the centers. So I don't have the edges oriented here because I want to talk about how you should influence it by choosing the direction of the last 2 moves wisely. So let's take a look at the edges. We have good, bad, good, bad, bad, good, bad, good. So we have 4 bad edges, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one's already in this position, so we just want to do R and U moves to set up the rest to the staircase pattern. So we could do that with R2, U, R prime. So now they're here. And now we want to think about how we're going to do the last 2 moves. So usually what you want is for the center to be opposite. So in this case, the white center belongs on bottom, but we're going to want to keep it on the top because it's easier to construct the edges on the top than it is on the bottom. So in this case, the direction of the U doesn't really matter. I just do U prime because it's easier to do with one hand than a U. But we do want to do an R wide prime to keep the white center on top. And now we want to attach the white edges, the white green and the white blue edges. So the white green is right here, so I can just attach it like that. And the white blue is in the back. So we have to do a similar thing to what we do sometimes during edge orientation. We can do R wide prime U2 R wide to bring it out of the D layer and up straight above where it was. And then we have to do U2 to line them up with the other centers. And finally RY2 to put everything where it belongs. All right, here's one more example. There will be full example solves at the end of the video for those of you who want more. So we have bad, 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 good, 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 bad, good. So the bad edges are 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4, but not 1 in the D layer. So I'll just start by doing R wide U2 R wide prime to put this one here. And then I'll set the rest up to a staircase. So U2 RU, put these here. And now the two edges I'm going to have are this one and this one. And I want the white centers to stay on top. So the way I could do this is R wide U prime, R wide prime, or R wide U, R wide prime. In this case, the U puts this edge into a better position because all we need to do is an R2 to place the green one opposite it. If we do this as R wide U prime, R wide prime, we have to do another move to connect this and one more move to move it opposite the green one. Instead, we can just do R wide U, R wide prime, and then R2 to connect these, U prime to line them up with the centers, and R wide 2. So that's the power of influencing these edges during the EO step. Now, the last part of the solve, if you already know how to solve a cube, is pretty straightforward. You do this just like you would in a ZZ or Petrus solve, and pretty much just like you would in CFOP. So you can just make F2L pairs. I won't be discussing how to make F2L pairs in this video. There are plenty of other good videos on that subject. So if you do need to learn how to make F2L pairs, you can search around for those. But you can just solve the F2L with 2gen moves, and then there are only 84 cases for the last layer because it has to be 2gen. So it is recommended that you just learn every algorithm because one look last layer and only 84 algorithms is very nice. But so you can still do solves before knowing full 2GLL, I'll show you the way to look it. So there are 7 orientation cases excluding or already solved. Most of these algorithms you probably already know, but there are a few where the standard algorithm is not 2gen, and you have to use a 2gen algorithm to preserve the CP that we worked so hard to get. If you already know COLL, you can completely skip this and just go straight to the example solves because you will already know this. But the first case is the soon. So I'll put all the algorithms on the screen. Then we have this case, the anti-soon. We have the pi case. The H case, which is 2 soons canceled together. And these next 3 are where the standard algorithm is not RU. So the U, you can do soon, then canceled into back soon. T is similar. Hold the unsolved corners in the back and do anti-soon, canceled into backs anti-soon. And the L case is a triple soon, so 3 soons canceled into each other. So that's all the orientation cases. Now I'll show you the permutation cases. Again, you might already know these algorithms, but I will show you RU algorithms for all of them. So there's the clockwise U-perm, and the counterclockwise U-perm, Then you have the H perm with all opposites. You can use the MU algorithm with table abuse like this. So if you are already good at that, go ahead. But if you don't know how to do that already, I would recommend just sticking to the RU algorithm that I have here. And then lastly is the Z perm, where you have a swap here. Alright, so now it is time for the full example solves. You can find links to the full written solutions as well as the scrambles in the descriptions, so if you want to follow along, check there now. So this is the first scramble. What I see here is the white and red corners already connected, so that's great. I'll do a CP line with that. So my 5 and 6 corners are here, so I can imagine doing a U prime move to put them here, and then I would have this circlet going backwards, so going clockwise around the R face. So starting with corner number 4, the next two would be 2, 1. So for 2, 1, we have 5 can swap with 3. So 5 can swap with 3, and then my other possible swap pairs will be these and these. Now, the edge that I need is back here in DB, which is not a very good place for it to be. But what I can do is use this swap pair, and I can do an R prime to put them next to each other, but instead I'll do an R wide prime to bring this out. And now I could do F prime, U prime F right here to swap them, but if I swap them here, I can solve this edge at the same time. So if I put these here, I can do F prime U F to solve them, but to put in the edge, I can do this as an F wide prime U F. So doing that trigger while inserting an S move in the middle, basically, to solve the edge. Now this is kind of a weird extension case. We have this edge already connected and this one flipped. So the way I did this was bringing down these two while separating them from this, moving it onto the right face, connecting them like that, and then moving them so they're opposite and connecting them over here. Now for this case, I could do just an R wide 2 to put this good edge back here, but instead I want this bad edge to be in DF. So I'll do U prime R wide 2 so that this edge is bad. And in this case I got 2 bad edges, so it doesn't really matter that this one's here, but if I got 4 bad edges or 6, it would be much better to have this one bad than good. So 2 bad edges, this one and this one. So yellow on top is good, white on top is good, green on top is good, yellow not on top is bad, yellow not on bottom is bad, yellow in front is good, white on bottom is good, and white in the back is good. So these are the only 2 bad edges. One is already in the M slice and one on the R face. So I can just do R wide, interchange these U prime, R prime, and then in this case I did a U prime because it doesn't really affect the edges. The edges, the DF and DB edges are over here, and then R wide to bring the white center on top. Now just connect these 2 edges to the center. I can do R, U2, R, set them up opposite to each other, U prime to line them up with the centers, and R wide 2 to solve them like that. Now for this F2L, I see that if I do an R move, my pairs are not great. So what I did was I paired this up first and then inserted it with an R2 like that. And then with this edge here, I can actually cancel into this one. So I can start with an R prime here. So R2, and then U2R to set those up, insert them, and then I just did the one look to GLL, which is actually a pretty easy alg. It's just anti-soon, u prime soon. All right, so that's that example solved. That one was 53 moves. So I will move on to the next one. Okay, here's the next example solve. So for this one, I saw the red and white corners were one move away from being solved. So I'll do those. I'll just imagine this move in my head, and that would place these here. So I would have this circlet, which goes this way, but is backwards because 5 is in 6 instead of 6 being in 6. So instead of going this way, I'll go this way. And starting with 4, the next two would be 3, 2. So I can swap the two white corners, and having a swap pair here means I have one here and one here. So I'll use the one that's in the U layer again, and I'll do a very similar thing to what I did in the last solve to solve the edge as well. So I have from the beginning F, U2, and then F wide prime, S prime, UF. So that's pretty much just doing an S2 and then an F prime, UF. All right, now for the extension, I have the red center and the blue-red edge already connected, which is nice, and the last edge here. So I'll do U wide to move these onto the R face, R wide 2 to bring this one out of the bottom and onto the top, then R, U to connect them, R to position them, and U wide 2 to solve them. And just like the last solve, I have 3 good edges on top, 1 bad, with the U or D center. So I'll do U prime, R wide 2 to make this edge bad. And now I have 4 bad edges, so it actually was helpful. If I were to do it just right here, I would have to do some extra moves. So yellow on top is good, blue not on top is bad, yellow on top is good, yellow not on top is bad, white knot on bottom is bad, yellow knot in front is bad, green on bottom is good, and white in the back is good. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bad edges right here. So the way I set these up to the staircase was R, U, R prime. And then I did R wide. And then in this case, the U direction does matter. I do a U instead of a U prime, R wide. And that puts this edge over here. If I did an R or a U prime instead, it would be more moves to solve this. So U there to set these up. R, U, R wide 2, solve those edges. And then here I did some block building. So U prime R2 connects these and sets up this edge. So U prime R2 again, solves that. Last pair, just standard. And this 2GLL is also pretty nice. Anti-soon canceled into back soon. So that one was 50 moves, and here's the next one. Okay, so for this one, I saw again the white and red corners, one move away from being solved. And this time we have the corners here. So this would be this circlet going backwards because 6 is not solved. So we would have 2, 1 as the tracing. So 5 can swap with 3. So 5 is here, 3 is here. So we have this swap pair, which means we also have these diagonals on the U face. And the edge is here. So I'll do the F move to connect these, and then I will do R to connect these swap pairs, or these two corners in the swap pair, and bring this edge up. And I'll solve the edge here with S2, and then swap these two in the back with FR F prime. Now for the extension, I have the red center on the bottom, this edge here, and this edge here. So I can do R wide prime to connect the edge to the center, U wide to put it on the right, R wide prime to bring this edge out from the bottom, and then I can connect them with R2, U, R to set them up, and U wide 2. And now all of my U layer edges are good, so I'll just do an R wide 2. And now I have two bad edges again, this one and this one. All the rest are good. So I have this one already in the M slice and this one in the R layer. So I can do R wide prime to keep this one in top. Interchange these. To interchange them, I have to move this one out of the way first. And then I will do a U prime here instead of a U to connect this edge to the center, and then R wide to bring it on top. So I need the white center. The white center belongs on bottom, and I connected that edge already. Now just add this one, U prime R U, and R wide 2. Now I got another nice block building case. R connects these corners and this edge. U prime R2, solve this last pair. And this 2GLL goes like this. And that one was 51 moves, and I have one more. All right, here is the last scramble. So what I saw here was this white edge already connected with the white corner. This is the other corner that goes there. Since it's 2 moves away from being solved, I will mentally swap these two. So then 6 will be here, and this is actually the 5, so 5 is going to be here. So the circlet will go this way. So then after 4, the next two are 3, 1. So for 3, 1, we can swap 5 with 1. So 5 is actually this one, and it can swap with 1. And we don't need to worry about the other swap pairs. They would happen to be here and here. But we need to use this one because it includes this corner that belongs in the line. So we need to set this corner up to be solved with an F, and this corner to be in UBR. So the way we can do that is U R2 and then F prime. But this actually gives us a not the best case for the extension. I notice before doing any moves that the two edges are right here, and when we do this we kind of disturb everything. So what I can do instead actually is a U wide to put these in the back and keep them next to each other instead of doing just a U here, which doesn't affect my CP line solution, but it keeps these edges over here. So then I do U wide to move them onto the right face, line them up like that, and then U wide 2. And then I have the front or back center on top. I could just put this edge in right here, but I actually have two bad edges opposite here, so I can do U prime, then R wide to get a couple more edges oriented. So now good, 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 bad, good, bad, good, good, good. Or I guess I already hit that one. But anyway, I have two bad edges, these two. So I'll set this one up to be in the M slice with a U, and then I will do R wide prime, interchange them with U prime R2, and then I'll do a U to connect this to here, and R to bring the white center on top. So doing that U instead of the U prime connects it, and the other edge is here, so I can do R wide U2, and then R wide prime, and then R wide 2. So really what I have here is just R wide U2 R wide. Now for this F2L, I have the corner connected, but the edge is kind of stuck next to it. So I'll instead just put the edge in and do 2 pairs. So there's that one. And then for this case, if you don't know the 2-gen solution, it goes like this. And then we have an H-perm, which I do the MU version. Works a little bit better when I have a mat, but I do the MU alg. You can use the RU alg as well if you want. So that's all the example solves I have. Check the description for more resources, and feel free to leave a comment with any questions you might have. Good luck and have fun solving with Wairuru.